Good morning, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what's going on with Bitcoin. So, very interestingly enough, we actually spiked up last night. It looks like we topped out around 64,146, which is very interesting. Now, only thing is I am a little bit concerned with the Fed event. I believe Warsh is getting inducted or something like that. I don't remember. Let me pull it up here. We had it. We were looking at it yesterday. Um, Let's see, what was it? He testifies. Okay, so Warsh testifies at 7 a.m. That could reverse things, unfortunately. So I was hoping that we would have gotten a drop before this event, but we didn't. So I don't know how far this could possibly take things lower. It could of course take things above, right, to 64.5 it looks like. Um, but that's just one thing that's kind of concerning to me. So this could, just keep in mind that this could potentially reverse price for the time being. It doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to get a huge dump, but we could. So just kind of be open-minded to that. Um, that being said, let's go back to the chart real quick. So what do? We got pretty much rejected off of the 63,940. And honestly, it looks like that's kind of a strong resistance area, and we're basically below weekly open now. Ideally today, I would like for us to close above, our Sunday weekly open. I believe that our true weekly open was around 62,798, which is why I marked it in blue. But I would ideally like for us to now close above the actual weekly open that's marked, which is, like I said, Sunday at 5 p.m. Okay. Um, let's see, take a look at our 12 hour. So it looks like we're kind of staying within this order block right here, finding resistance at the top of it. Um, let's see, not too much on the 8, the 4. Yeah, I don't want us to wick from here, because that would give us a sign that we could possibly have some sort of reversal. Um, Let me take a look and see where that puts us here. So that's a little bit more than a 786, unless you pull it from the actual top. Let's see. At the actual top, it probably is almost a perfect one, yeah. So from the actual top, it's almost a perfect 786, and that would pretty much take you down to 61 around there. So this could potentially give us a short. I hope it doesn't. But you got to be open-minded, right? It's that's now we are back above the 4-hour 200 MA though. And like I say, as long as we keep it, that's going to be your bullish sign, right, on the mezzo. So on the mezzo, I have to have now flipped bullish because we're just regained that and looks like we're going to close above it. If we don't close above it, right, if we don't keep this candle above it, then I'll flip bearish again and then we'll basically probably have it dump to that 61K area. But until then, we have to say that on the mezzo that we're back to being bullish, right? Um, Now, I do want to see, before I were to take a long, I want to see on the 1 hour the 21 crossing above the 200 MA here. Okay, so I want to see at least the 21 crossing the 200 MA in order to think that a long would be a good idea. Okay, until then, we could potentially drop, we could make even a 786 from this level right here. So let me get rid of this other one so it's not too confusing. We could basically bounce off of 62,337 potentially, which would kind of be near the bottom of this order block right here. That's another potential, that's another possibility. So, we're just gonna have to kind of wait and see. I usually don't trade during, a bigger Fed event. I usually like to wait until after. But it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens here. Now, on the 15 minute, more of your micro time frames, you are getting the golden cross, on the 15, where the 21's crossing the 200 to the upside. So that is a very good sign. We may just have to wait for price to meet the 21 and then we could explode up. It's all going to depend on, how well we consolidate during this event, okay? Um, let's see, the 5 minute. Yeah, so I mean, everything looks decent. I just don't want to see us losing. Like I said, the 15 minute 200 MA I want to see kept. I want to see the 1 hour consolidate, get that 21 to cross over, and then I would also like to see the 4 hour keeping its 200 MA as well. So just some different areas of confluence that I'm going to be looking for today. that you should probably kind of keep in your mind on your radar. Um, we will, if we are meant to keep going up, we will break this resistance zone at 63,940, more than likely going up to this 65,186 area if we were to break up. Um, but it's all going to depend on what price wants to do. We did make a good, decent dump for the week, so it doesn't mean that we necessarily have to take out this low. But I'm open-minded to whatever may happen. Okay. Um, like I said, if we were to get the move up, look for 65,186 first, and then 65,705, and then 66,482. Those are all three levels to keep in mind as price moves up if it were to move up. Now, this could also be building a head and shoulders type pattern, which takes us down below, and then I would be targeting, probably 61K, 60,622, and 60,189 right here as we go lower. So just some levels to kind of keep in mind. I'm going to actually delete this one, but we'll keep 61,124, 60,622, and then 60,189. Those are three different levels to look out for down below if we were to get the expansive move down, like a head and shoulders pattern down. Okay. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at liquidity real quick. So let me move back to trading different. Okay, so let's take a look at our daily. We haven't done that in a while, so let's go ahead and take a look at the daily, see what's going on there. So our daily looks like it has some legs to go up to about 66,492, and I believe that's close to one of our levels, right? 66,482, almost right on the dot. Look at that. So it looks like it does have legs that it could go up there. We do have some liquidity sitting around 60,270 that we could possibly take out before we get up there. It's going to all depend on what price wants to do, right? So this is definitely a possibility down below. Just be very careful with this. But let me go into the 4 hour and see what, price is looking at from a smaller, as we drive into the smaller time frames here. Um, 66, again, 66,555, 66,482. That's going to be your target to the upside if we can get up there. Now, just be very mindful that we have this yellow liquidity down here, like I said, again, 60,000 area, right? And we do have orders on Kiyotaka down to that point. We also have a potential bounce area at 63, around 63,400, it looks like, for this morning. And we could always, honestly, guys, we could get here, get this order, and then bounce up to 64.7-ish before we have to have our retracement, right? So, overall, this could potentially become a bearish week. It's all going to depend on timing and, if we start to take out the upper area too soon, like obviously it's Tuesday. I would have liked to see a gradual move up starting today, not, these spikes. But if we do spike, Tuesday or Wednesday, we could potentially top out, and then Thursday, Friday could get ugly. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind, guys. I do think that if we were to move up, the prime target is going to be taking out this triple top right here around 64,685. So we could kind of rip up into here and then just get a nasty rejection off of this yellow liquidity up here. So, I mean, there's a potential we could reach that red liquidity, but it's not a given, right? So just be very careful, especially with all that's going on right now. I I'm kind of the mindset of, let one of these pools be taken before taking your trade because it's almost a it's been a gamble lately to figure out like where price is going to go. If I were to take a guess, I would say that we probably we take out this triple top and then we might reverse. That's kind of where my head is at right now. But again, like I have no idea. That's my kind of probabilistic, guess at this point. Let's take a look at the 1 hour. So the 1 hour looks like we can get up to 65K and then we have some liquidity that starts to die down there. So that kind of lines up with taking out that triple top right there, right? Getting rejected off of this red liquidity right here. So that's kind of what I'm targeting right now, guys, is this 64.6-ish area to take out this triple top right here, before we get that move down. Okay. So that's Yeah, that looks like it is what might happen. Your trend of indicator says you're bullish on the day, quite bullish by a 2. You got, your 1 hour is showing a 3. Your 4 hour is neutral. But it's all going to really depend, like I said, on where price wants to go first. And then if we take out this pull up here, it could be a great short opportunity, but just be really careful because, again, you're above the 4 hour 200 MA. So let's take a look at the 15-minute. Yeah, this looks like a bull flag. I mean, this does look like a bull flag that takes you higher. Let me just measure it out real quick. I'm curious. So if this were to break out, it takes you right to 65,000 even practically. So it could definitely be a good play. The risky thing would be to long it right now. Not financial advice, but you could also wait for the 21 to touch on the 15-minute. I definitely think there's, as long as we can consolidate during this Fed event, we could have a decent move up. But just be careful. Like I said, it could literally rip to the other direction, at any given time. So, anyways, guys, that is what I have for our liquidity heat map as well as our order book. Let's take a final look at our simple map. So on the simple map here, yeah, it does look like we have a lot of 100x to the downside. So, you have it down to, you got some bridges down, honestly, all the way down to 61.7. Not that we're going to get that far, but just be aware that we could, right? There's a lot more 50 and 100x, a lot of people longing, right? A lot more volume now, too. Look, it's in the millions again. Before we were dealing with less than a million, even closer to price action, it's less than a million. But there is a little tiny bridge to get us above here to some of this upper liquidity that contains the 100, the 50, and the 25 here. So not too bad of a sign, but just be wary today of what's going on, okay? So your scalping timeframes look like they could potentially have a push to the downside sooner rather than later, in my opinion. At least for a little bit, maybe not all of this whole way, but at least maybe part way it could. Um, and then your swing timeframes, your bigger timeframes, also kind of show the same thing. Where you kind of have more 25x closer to the downside rather than to the upside, right? There's not really a lot of shorts right away. I mean, once you get to like 64.2, it starts to get more interesting, right? For, the market makers to wreck the shorts. But until then, you kind of have a very little amount of liquidity to go to the upside. So is it impossible? No, but just kind of keep that in mind that, it does kind of allude to the fact that we could potentially be going to the downside sooner rather than later. We do have more orders down here. Okay. At least for, for as far as bridges go, there's more of an incentive to go to the downside rather than to the upside. Because there are some, once you get to, like I said, 64.2, that's when you're able to kind of get some more movement because there's a lot more orders. But until then, there's more to the downside closer to us. So, all right, guys, that is what I have for this morning. I hope you guys have a wonderful trading day. I will be out of town today, so I will be giving you guys an update probably a little bit later than usual, but I will still give you guys the evening update to see what happened for the day. But anyways, I hope you all take care and have a wonderful and safe trading day. I'll talk to you later.